Okay, here we go. Welcome, everybody. We're going to be going over how to set up your Final Fantasy XI private server for EventideXI, and then how to install my add-ons pack, and if you're a controller user, how to get your controllers working properly. And then we'll be going over all the add-ons and how to use them, add-ons and plugins. And then at the very end, for those interested, there's a third-party program called Lossless Scaling that I've been using to use AMD's fluid motion frames to inject additional frames into FF11, letting me get all the way up to 165 FPS, which is pretty rad. So we're going to go ahead and dive into it. First off, I use 7-zip for all my zipping and unzipping needs. If you don't already have it, I would suggest using it. You can just go to 7-zip.org, download right there. Go ahead and get it installed. You might need to restart your PC afterwards. Might not. After that, you're going to go ahead and download the EventideXI RAR, which links will be below, and you'll download the add-ons and plugins pack of mine, which link will also be down below. Once you have both of those files started, we can go ahead and get going. I like to take my downloads window, pop it up on the right side of my screen, and then if you just press Windows E, you will get a second Explorer window. I like to pop that up on the left. We're going to be doing all of our installs in the C drive today to keep it simple. There's really only one spot where you need to go in and manually put the directory for your game in. So if you want yours to match exactly mine today, we're going to go ahead and use the C drive. Otherwise, when you get to this last part, I'll show you a little trick that allows you to just grab the directory you need and copy paste it into the file it needs to be in. So right here on the C drive, we're going to start with the Eventide base install. Open up the Eventide.rar. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. Just open it with 7-zip. Oh, I guess it's still going to do that anyway. Once the 7-zip file opens up, just grab the Eventide folder out. They double packed it into a, you'll notice right here, it does Eventide/Eventide. So to get that to not do that, when you first open it up, right, it's going to be right here. Just open this first Eventide folder and snag this second Eventide folder and drag it onto your C drive. This will take just a second to unpack. Also, the files in total are about 52 gigs. So make sure you've got about 55 to 60 gigs available on whichever drive you decide to put it on. If that is just too damn big for you, that's fine. There are a couple of the HD packs for the textures that you can just remove. If enough people request it, I can also make a add-ons and plugins pack that does not include the HD files so that it's a much smaller download to deal with. Okay, there we go. Got the base Eventide folder. Then next thing what we're going to do is go ahead and unpack the add-ons and plugins on top of it. You're going to go ahead and open the add-ons and plugins. And inside of here, you want to make sure that you are inside of your Eventide folder. It should just be C, Eventide, and then all of the Ashita folders. We're simply going to take all three of these. Oh, I actually don't want to overwrite that readme.txt. So we're going to take all these folders and just drag and drop them into here. All right. And then inevitably it will ask if you want to overwrite the files that are already in place. Go ahead and tell it yes. Okay, so we are now done with the extracting part. Next, we're going to move into a step that if you are a controller user, you need to go ahead and follow this next step. If you are not a controller user, you can ignore this next chapter. So for you controller users out there, this controllers folder has two different options. You can either go with the Xbox or standard X input controller or a PlayStation 5 or direct input controller. I have an Xbox controller, so I'll be using the Xbox file, but the process is identical for both. So you open up the folder for the controller type you're using, go ahead and copy this file, Eventide.ini, with either Control-C or right-click using this fancy little Windows 11 copy button. And then you're going to back out to the main Eventide folder again, and you're going to go into config boot, and you are going to paste that file into here. What this is doing is going in and changing from the default settings for Ashita, which would not allow controller use and it would not look for a controller. This is going to allow the game to find your controller and allow controller use in background. And the real kicker on it is it automatically sets up all of your buttons for the default control profile from the original FF11. You can come and dink around in here if you want, but this series of numbers is what allows your controller to work properly. It's telling the game that you want to use a controller, that you want to use the controller in the background, and then it's setting up the actual key mapping. Now, for whatever reason, the key mapper that's built into the Eventide launcher doesn't work right currently. So by using these files, it's just pre-set up for you. Thanks a lot to the Eventide community in the Eventide Discord for figuring all this out. But by copy pasting these files in, you're set to get straight off the bat. The only thing, let me double check that I cleared out the, yeah, perfect. Okay. So once you copy paste these files in, there's nothing you need to change in them. I was just showing you what it was. Get your Eventide.ini set up for whichever controller you're using. And then now, if you're a keyboard user, you can continue following along. So what we're going to do is, to start off, so next what we're going to do is go ahead and open up the Eventide config editor.exe. When this first pops up, it might ask you to install a Windows feature. Go ahead and follow the prompts that pop up on screen and get the Windows feature installed, and then run this, and it'll pop this little window up. You want to leave these blank for now if you're a new account. We'll go over that in just a second. We're going to treat this install as if we're doing a new account install. If you dropped in your controller INI, this will automatically be checked. Do not mess with the controller config if you're a controller player. If you're a keyboard player, you won't have dropped the INI. You can leave that off. It's a little bit of personal preference here, but window width and height should be your default Windows resolution, same as your desktop. So if you don't know what that is, just right-click your desktop anywhere and go to Display Settings, and it'll be right here in the middle. Also, make sure that your scaling is set to 100%. Windows scaling will affect the plane that all the add-ons are on, and your mouse will not line up properly with the add-ons if your scaling is set. There are ways you can get Windows to not scale that program, but that's not what this tutorial is about. This is the easiest way to do it if you're having any issues. Just set your scaling to 100%. Take this resolution number and put it into your window width and height. The background width, you want to do 1.5, the resolution numbers. So pull out your Windows calculator, take your window width, times 1.5, 3840. So this one's going to be 3840. And then we 1440 times 1.5, 2160. All right. And now this is where the personal choice comes in. If you like your OG FF11 menus and text boxes and all of that to be nice and small and crisp, use the same resolution as your desktop. If you want them to be a little bigger and easier to see, or to feel a little more like old school FF11 with, the big menus and stuff, set this to 1920 by 1080. If they're still not big enough for you, then try 720 resolution. 1280 on the top, 720 on the bottom. Personally, I like mine nice and small with all of the add-ons and UI add-ons. The default FF11 menus are really not needed and used very infrequently. The last thing you want to do is make sure that this is set to full screen windowed, and then save, click OK, close this down. And then before we launch, real quick, there's just a few things I like to check to make sure that it's all set up right. We're going to go into the okay, so we're going to go in and just check a few things real quick for both keyboard and controller users. You're going to go into your config folder, then you're going to go into the boot folder. You're going to reopen that Eventide.ini. You want to make sure that the name is set to Eventide at the top. Not needed at all, but something I like to do. The Ashita.boot section should only have the server listed currently until we get a username and password set up. And then if you are a keyboard user, double check Ashita.input. Make sure gamepad allowed is 0 and disable enumeration is 1. If you do not do this, your game will hitch every 30 seconds while it looks for a controller. If you are a controller user, of course, make sure that those are on. They should be from the file you imported in. And then if you really want to be thorough, you can scroll all the way to the bottom and make sure that your resolution numbers are set properly. It's going to be 1 and 2, 3 and 4 for your window size and background size, and then your menu size are 37 and 38. Once that's all set up and you're sure it's good to go ahead and close the Eventide.ini. Also, for those following along, I'm going to throw this in here right now. Be very sure that in this view option that you go open it up, go to show, and make sure that file name extensions, hidden items is personal choice, but I don't like Windows hiding things from me. But file name extensions for sure, because if you rename a file, this file.ini, and the extension is hidden, it's actually going to be called this file.ini.ini, and that's going to fuck things up. So make sure that you have that set up so that you can see the file types. Okay, so go back to your main Eventide folder once you've just double checked your Eventide ini, and then we are going to run the launch eventide.bat. This will pop up some windows. If it pops up a thing saying, "Are you sure you want to run this?" click the more information button and then click run anyway. Now, if you don't have an account yet, this window is going to pop up no matter what. If you don't have an account yet, do option 2, create a new account and follow the prompts. Once you've created your account, go ahead and close this, reopen the Eventide config, and put in your username and password. I set up a temp password for doing the tutorial. My password for FF11. Once your username and password are popped in there, hit save. shut that down. You can double check, of course, by going into your config, boot, Eventide.ini, scroll down to the ashita.boot section. You should now see your username and password. I actually messed mine up a little bit. It's Core Wizard. You can edit them right inside of this document and be fine. Just save it when you're done. And then I don't think it should mess with anything else. As long as you don't like open that controller launcher or anything like that, you should be good to go. Close this bad boy down. And now when you use the Eventide, launch Eventide.bat, it should take you straight into the game. As long as the game boots up with you logged in, we are good to go for the next section, which will be setting up all of the add-ons and plugins. So we're going to go ahead and shut this down. And you can see how it's hitching every few seconds. That's because it's looking for my controller. If I turn my controller on, it'll stop doing that. That is the controller enumeration setting. So if the controller enumeration's off, it won't do that because it won't be looking for a controller. Once my Xbox controller actually wakes up, there it goes. Now, bam, smooth as pie. So that's a big thing. If you get that hitching every couple seconds, you either need to turn your controller on or you need to go turn the controller enumeration off. Okay, for now, we're going to back out, let the game shut down. So the first thing we want to do for our plugins and add-ons is going into the config folder, finding the pivot folder, and opening our pivot.ini. Now, by default, this file will be read-only. So right-click the file, go to Properties, uncheck read-only, click Apply. Okay. Now you can overwrite the file. This line at the top, root path, this needs to match the root path for your POL plugin DATs. So what we're going to do is coming back to our Eventide install, we're going to go back to the main Eventide folder, open up the POL plugins and the DATs folder, and then you're just going to click once at the top and copy that line out and replace this with that. This is also where we decide which HD packs we want. So in my download pack, I have included AshenbubsHD Basic, AshenbubsHD Prime, the Eventide DATs, of course, the Lo-Fi music pack, which replaces all of the city music with lo-fi versions of them, and the Remapster pack. This Remapster pack also includes the full HD Maps combo pack, which is a combination of Remapster and a few other HD packs. It's the most complete one that I could find. So we want to make sure that we have all of these active. Eventide, of course, on top. HD Prime is the like 4K by 4K resolution textures. The basic is the 2K by 2K. It's up to you which one you want to use. The Prime definitely takes a lot more resources to run. You could also switch them in game. You can pop back and forth. You could be like, hey, I'm just hanging out farming. I want it to look real pretty. And then it's like, oh, I need to go do Dynamis. Time to put on the basic pack. But whatever you put in here is going to be your default when the game launches. So anything that's missing, you can just add. Like if I want to add in the lo-fi pack, I would just do 3 equals lo-fi. Make sure the spelling and caps match the folders. And then say you wanted to do the basic instead, you could just change this to basic. Bam, and you'd be good to go. So once you have this set up the way you want it, save it, close it. Also, only do 1 pack at a time. Just throwing that out there. I don't know what it'll do, but it probably is not going to be good. All right, save this, close pivot ini. So now your pivot ini is set up properly and it will be reading DATs out of the proper folder. Then what we're going to do is open up the scripts folder and open up the default.txt. Now by default, I have it set up the way I like it. If there are any add-ons that you know you don't like, you can just come in and add a # in front of it, or you can replace the slash with a # if you want to be extra sure. So some that I feel not everyone would want. Deeps, for instance, it's a damage meter. It pops up on your screen. It kind of gets in the way sometimes. If you don't want it, boom, cross it out. Third party and add-ons need to be left on. Those are part of Ashida's basic workflow. Packet flow increases your connection to the server by optimizing the way that packets are sent back and forth. It makes your loading times much faster. It makes your connecting times quicker, blah, blah, blah. Pivot, of course, is necessary. Deeps optional. Discord RPC optional. This one will send detailed information to Discord. So when someone hovers over your name, it'll not only say, hey, they're playing FF11. It'll be like, hey, they're playing FF11 on Eventide. They're in Saruta Baruta in a party. Like, so it's kind of cool, kind of not. If you want the privacy, turn it off. Nameplate makes everyone's nameplates HD, so they're not these big stretched out things. Minimap, of course, we all should know that one. The tune loader gives it a nice cell shaded look. This sadly does not work with the DX wrapper. If you are going to use the DX wrapper, we'll be talking about in a second. This will not work with that, but you'll get much better performance by using the DX wrapper. So it's kind of up to you. I'm going to go ahead and leave it off now because I do use the DX wrapper for better performance. Draw distance is great. Shows much more of the map at a time when you're looking out into the distance. MIP map helps improve the MIP mapping of the game since it's an old DirectX 8 game. Slash move, the move add-on, I'm still not really entirely sure what it does. I think it just lets you move and resize your add-ons easier. Same with timestamp, it just automatically puts timestamps in chats. You want Renamer on. There are some Eventide specific uses of the Renamer add-on. colors color codes all your spells so that when you're searching through the auction house, you can tell quickly, have I bought this? Do I already have it learned? Yada, yada. Aspect automatically sets the aspect ratio of your screen so that it doesn't look so stretched, and you don't have to manually go in and change it for every character. Auto join is a wonderful add-on that automatically joins parties. So when someone sends you an invite, you don't have to deal with it. It just, boom, joins you in. It can be set up with a whitelist so that it auto declines everybody except users on your whitelist. Balloon adds FF14 style chat windows to NPCs. I really like this one. It really makes following storylines a lot easier, and you don't have to like dig through your chat log to like read the storyline bits. Cbind, this is a controller specific add-on. If you are not using a controller, definitely pound that one out. If you are using a controller, go ahead and leave it on. Cbind allows you to directly bind menu commands to your controller buttons if you so choose. Chains is the most up-to-date and convenient, easy to use skill chain follower that I've seen so far. Really like this one. Chatmon will notify you of certain things happening in the chat log. If someone is typing your name, it'll say someone's talking about you. Or if you get a skill up, it'll say you've gotten a skill up. Or if someone tries to trade with you, you are being traded with. And you can customize all the sound effects and everything, and you can turn some on, some off. I like it because I'm AFK a lot with dad duties. And if someone tries to trade me, I can hear that through my headset, which is great. Checker, really good add-on for getting the exact level and difficulty of a mob when you check it. Craftmon just gives you a better chat log readout for your crafting. Custom colors allows you to customize the colors used for all chats. Equipmon gives you a small window showing your currently equipped equipment at all times. FPS, of course, is used for changing the FPS divisor between 0, 1, and 2. We will get to that more when we get into the optimization section. Hide console hides the console window that pops up when you launch the game. It's what we used to create an account and log in a moment ago. Normally it stays up in the background. This add-on simply hides that, so you have one less window running in the background. HXUI, an amazing UI upgrade. This is the newest version that has support for the original FF11 window style and colors, as well as allowing you to have windows for your alliance members as well, which is really rad. Instant Auction House makes it so that you don't have to wait that like 2.5 or 3 seconds between knowing if you got the purchase or not. Instant chat, same, just makes your chat instantly go in instead of taking a second to log in. Item watch is a fun one. I use this when I'm chocobo digging. You can set up a list of items and it will show you how many total you own in all of your inventories on screen quickly. So I can keep track of how many corals I'm digging up, how many glacial greens I have left in my pocket, like blah, blah, blah. Minimap control, this one sets and saves the zoom level of your minimap for every zone you go into, so you don't have to keep fiddling with your minimap every time you zone. MobDB is an amazing tool that shows you information about every mob and allows you to, with this newest version, you can open up a detailed view where it will show you everything you want to know about a mob, what it drops, all those things. No lock is a great one. When you are pulling your weapon out while targeted with a spell, you get locked down, and it's annoying and stupid. This stops that from happening. No mount blocks the mount music. So if you're using Spotify or whatever, a music bot in chat, and you're not listening to the in-game music, or you just are sick of hearing the Chocobo theme 100 times over while you run around, this kills the mount music. No name removes your name from above your character. I personally love this. I don't need to see my name. I know what my name is. Pet info, great little window, keeps track of health and current target for your pet. Points, another wonderful add-on that keeps track of your XP per hour, current XP chain, TNL, great app. Simple log, really wonderful combat log for keeping track of everything in the text log for all your combat needs. Status timers removes the original game's buff icons and timers and gives you movable, adjustable, customizable ones. Target lines is amazing. This gives you the little targeting lines from FF12. T crossbar is a controller specific add-on. This gives you the Final Fantasy XIV crossbar, and T hotbar gives you the same style of crossbar, but this is a traditional 1 through 10 hotbar like you would see in any other MMO. Some people like this, some people don't. If you're a keyboard user and you've already gotten super used to using macro books and pages, this might not be any help. I'll show you guys what it is when we get into it. Treasure pool is an on-screen list of what's currently in the treasure pool, how long it has left in the treasure pool, and who currently has the highest roll on it. I like it. If you don't want the extra trash on your screen, pound it out. T-Timers is a wonderful replacement for the old Timers add-on. It's just much more beautiful and accurate. XI camera allows you to customize your camera distance so that you don't have to be so zoomed in all the dang time. And zone name is just a nice little, every time you come into a new zone, it pops up on your screen and just says the zone name in nice text. You do want to make sure this stays in here. Renamer load ET. This is the Eventide specific renamer pack. This must be on. And then if you scroll all the way to the bottom, I have preset some FPS, draw distance, and camera settings. You can remove these or change these how you'd like. I'm using FPS 0 uncapped because I use my Nvidia profile to lock the game at 60. That way, because the locking it at 60 through the FPS app or locking it at 30 even doesn't, it's a little chunky sometimes. So this lets it run the game at full rip, and then the Nvidia drivers keep it at 60. I set my draw distance defaults to 5. Draw distance is interesting. You will probably have to use this command in every zone the first time you go in, but it should remember once you've set it. You can also take this draw distance set W5 and apply it to a keybind. You could come in and just put /bind F10. Oops. That's the wrong thing. Copy. And now you can just reach up and press F10 anytime you get into a new zone, and it will just automatically apply the draw distance. I also set up keybinds for F11 and 12 for cam distance 8 and cam distance 30, so that while I'm running around, I can quickly like zoom the camera super far out and take a peek, and then I can just zoom the camera back into where I like it. Cam D is your normal running around camera distance, and cam B is the battle cam distance. You can use these commands directly in the chat log in game, play around with them, find the numbers you like, and then come back in and edit these to be the numbers you like. So just remember that for when you're ready to set those up. So that goes over everything in the add-ons and plugins default.txt, getting these to load automatically when you launch your game. If there's any other add-ons that you would like to get, this is where you would punch them in. If you want to see a master list of the add-ons, simply go to your Eventide folder, open up the add-ons, and you can see all of the add-ons included here. You would just simply add in /add-on load, whatever the folder name is, on a new line, and it'll work. And then you can use this bottom section to set specific parameters of the add-ons you loaded above. This is also where you will load your plugins at the very, very top. Plugins can be found in the plugins folder, and they will just be these DLLs. You simply match the name to the file name. Oh, I don't want you to actually open that. And then once you have your default.txt set up the way you want it, that's great. We're going to go ahead and save that, close it. Okay, so now we're going to go in game and start setting up all of the add-ons. So the way I like to launch the game is just from a desktop icon. So what you can do to set that up, instead of using this launch Eventide.bat, simply right-click the Ashita CLI.exe. It probably won't show up, so go to the More Options, and then you'll find this Send To, and Send To Desktop as shortcut. Then click once, wait a second, click again, rename to EventideXI, and then right-click, go to the Properties, and at the end of the target, you're going to do space, open quote, Eventide.ini, close quote. The capital E is important. What this is doing is pointing the shortcut launcher to your Ashita config file, which is right there. And the capital must match. Once you've got that typed in there, just click apply, okay. Now, when you launch off of your shortcut, it'll just log you straight in. You should now see the Eventide instead of Horizon. All your DATs should be working much better. Let me turn my controller on so it doesn't do that enumeration stuff. And log in. So you're going to initially be greeted with a bunch of shit on your screen. So I'm just going to work through how I go ahead and get started and get all these set up. First of all, close that little patch. Okay, so first place we're going to start is all these boxes just sitting here. If you do a /TC, this is for the controller hotbar, T crossbar. And if you do a /TB, okay, and then to pull up the same one for the hotbar is /TB. TB for board, TC for controller. The first thing I like to do is take this from 10x3 and set it to 10x2. That way it's not locking my 1 through 0 keys, trying to capture them before the game gets them. And then I click allow drag, pops this blue box up. And you can, well, hold on, I got to apply first, get the 2. And then I like to set mine right here so I can only see the 1. And as I'm a controller user, I only use this for like clicking on. I put macros that I rarely use in there. Now, if you were a keyboard user and you wanted to use this, this is actually a pretty cool thing. You can control click any of these boxes and you get a macro, and you can put your macro right into there. And these are set to be control 1 through 0 and alt 1 through 0, just like your macros would be. If you do want to use this, you cannot have macro fix enabled because it'll pull the macros up too fast. This requires you to kind of skip the macros in a way. The palettes and jobs in global, I'll go over when I go over the controller settings, but they are the same for keyboard users, the way they work. So I'm going to just leave that guy down there. And then if you want them to be clickable, just make sure that the clickable is there. And then you don't even have to, you could still use your normal keyboard macros, and you can go into the one of the files of this hotbar, and you can actually just disable all keybinds and just use these as clickable controls. It's up to you. There's a couple different ways to do that. So, but the way I use it is just as a clickable bar at the bottom of my screen. Now for the crossbar, the single layout is referring to when you, oh, right. First thing you need to do is go to the controller tab and pick your controller type. So I have an Xbox, I select Xbox, click apply, and now when I do the bumpers, it will, or not the bumpers, sorry, the triggers, you can see it moving to the different tabs down, or different pages below. So what I can do now is come into behavior, and for the left-right display, I like to do half double. Because what this does is it hides the one that you're not. So when I pull the right trigger, you only see the right. And when I pull the left trigger, you only see the left. But you also have double tap left and double tap right, and left to right sweep and right to left sweep. These are all different bindings that you can set up. So once you have your controller set properly and you put this to half double, everything else is kind of personal choice. I like to come in and turn these on, make sure your controller is set properly. You can change the controller binds over here if you'd like. And then in the layout, the single layout is going to be these guys that center themselves, and you can adjust their scale, make them bigger or smaller as you want. Make it a little smaller, see, or I could make the singles a little bigger so that when I pull them up, it's like, oh yeah, I definitely got that guy open. Personally, I like to have mine so that the classic, or the singles, are just slightly larger, so that there's just a little more difference between the base and the not. By default, it comes with PlayStation controller icons. You can go manually change those yourself if you want. It's kind of a pain in the ass, not really worth it. So I leave that alone. And then if you want to move these around, you can also do the allow drag. Just know that the drag for the double bar is separate for the drag for the single bar, and you can have them in different places. You know, I could put this over here, and then when I end drag, so now if I double tap out, it goes over there instead. So I'm gonna just reset these real quick though. Okay, so that's setting up your T crossbar and your hotbar. The next thing I like to do is just grab my Equipmon, and I set mine right next to the party list. And I like to put my Gil right next to the party list and my items right next to the party list. Oh, good job. I like putting my XP bar right above the hotbar and my health bar also right above there. Now to get into the nice deep settings of HXUI, type /HXUI. And starting at the top, I like to set these to the HD icons right off rip, and I like to do the classic icon theme, which once you open this window, it will pull up all of the party boxes so you can adjust them. So the way I like mine set up, I like to have my party box on this side, and these are the alliance boxes. So I'm going to go ahead and stack those out right next to it. Or maybe these would look even better down here. All right, so then the player bar, that is these three down here. Personally, I like to uncheck always show MP. Then it will only show MP when you are playing a magic class. I then like to set my scale on X to 1.5, but I leave the Y alone, and then center it up right under my controller. And then target bar is not showing anything right now, but let me see if I can target this Moogle. There we go. I like my target bar nice and centered up. And then this is the MobDB panel. For now, we're just gonna slap it up there. We're gonna keep working on the HXUI though. So I don't like showing enemy ID. I think it gets in the way. Health percent though, fantastic. You can scale it however you'd like. I like just leaving mine alone. The enemy list, sadly this one will not pop up on its own, but when you get into combat, this is like FF14 style, where you have a list of all monsters that are currently on the aggro table for your party, and it'll have what debuffs they have on them. I leave it all at the normal scale. When you see it pop up, you can just click it and drag it and move it wherever you'd like. Party list. I like to show when solo. I don't know, it's just that way, it's just there and I can see it. And I also use this window to kind of line up my buffs, which are these guys here, which you can now drag around. If you have your window on the left side, the first thing you need to do is go to the status themes and set it to Horizon XI-R. This is going to put all your buffs on the right side of the window. And by leaving it on the Horizon XI style, it separates the buffs and debuffs. So you'll have buffs on top, debuffs on bottom, and they'll have green backgrounds with up arrows for the buffs and red backgrounds with down arrows for the debuffs. Other than that, I leave that pretty much alone. Whatever you like to have your chat log windows style set to, you can set the same style for your party windows. So I like the default ones, but what I do is take the background scale and I set it to 1, and then I go to the alpha channels and I set it to 100 and 100. Oh, not 1,000. And that makes it slightly see-through so that, you know, you can see what's going on behind it a little easier. And that is pretty, I think that's everything on the party window. You can also turn the alliance windows on and off if you want them right here. And if you want them to, if you want it to start at the bottom and stack up instead of starting at the top and stacking down, you would align from bottom instead of align from top. So again, that's just a personal choice one. You can also get rid of the, where it says party. You can get that to go away if you want. Okay, but that's good for now. I'm leaving party list alone. XP bar, I like to make that a little smaller. Actually, I don't mind it being the full length X, but I like to bring it, squish it in a little bit, about 80%, and then I bring the text down. Oh wait, that's not the right one. There we go. -1, -2. That's too tiny. I think -1 is the sweet spot. Personal preference, of course. Guild tracker, same. I like mine nice and big. Inventory tracker, same. The inventory tracker will grow as your inventory grows as well, so you can kind of keep scooching it over as it gets bigger and bigger. And then the cast bar, when you have this menu open, it'll show you in config mode. I like to put that bad boy right underneath my feet so that it's nice and obvious when I'm casting a spell. All right, and that is HXUI setup. Next, we're gonna set up the status timers. So if you type /status timers, pops up this bad boy. The only thing I do here is I drop the theme down, pop it to HD. That way these icons match these icons. And I can quickly just be like, oh, I have this buff or this debuff, and then I can just find the icon, see how much time I have left on it. There are a lot more things you can play with in here. Another one you'll want to do is set this movable target bar. And when you target something that has a debuff, it's initially going to probably pop it right here underneath. Just click it and drag it away. I just put mine like way at the bottom. I'll show you guys when we get to that part. Just make sure movable target subtarget is selected. And if you really want it, you can enable visual aid, which gives you like a green, yellow, red on it. I don't necessarily like that though, because I also use T-timers, which has that going on already. But if you don't want to use T-timers and you're trying to minimize, that's an option. All right, so closing that guy down. We've got our status timer set up. We've got our HXUI set up. We've got our crossbars, our thought bars, our equipmon. Next, real important one with the, actually, you know what? Before I get too much further, I just gotta go in and change my default FF11 settings. This is already driving me crazy. The way I like mine, obviously the music, crazy loud. Turn that down. Ooh, there we go. Now I usually listen to other music in the background. It's usually Final Fantasy music, but for now I'll just go ahead and leave it here. Now, pro tip for modern screens. This game was designed for CRT monitors and TVs. Your modern flat panel is so much brighter than those old TVs. Set your gamma down to 0 on all 3 colors, and it will just look so much better and sharper. And I don't know, I think it makes the colors look so much more clear. Personally, I like inventory sort on. I leave it on type 1. Chat filters don't work in custom servers. Font colors don't work in custom servers, but we got an add-on for that. Windows, I like to set mine to vertical. I leave it on window type 1 personally. And then I do max 8, minimum 8. And I bring my width down to 1 above the minimum. And I do that to both windows. That way it's always the same, and my chat windows don't move around and end up covering up other bits of UI and all that. And then miscellaneous, I set mine to screen only because simple log shows me my damage in the chat log. Character information, personal preference. Shadows, you can set them to high if you want to see other people's shadows. This can be a little heavy on the system if you're not getting very good frame rates. I would leave them off if you're not getting good high frame rates. Also, if you're using the toon shader, just leave them off because the toon shader doesn't render shadows properly anyway. I like mine on high, leaving it there. I like weather effects on. Again, weather effects can be a big drain on frame rate. Icon type 2 is important to leave on. A lot of add-ons can only display properly with icon type 2, and armor display normal. Miscellaneous 2, you want to leave most of this off. Now the aspect add-on is already setting your screen aspect ratio properly. I just had a habit going and I set it anyway. Miscellaneous 3, you want to have all of these options on generally. Miscellaneous 4 doesn't matter. Effects, again, doesn't really matter. Mouse and camera, if you're a controller user and you want modern camera control, just invert both third-person cameras, and it'll feel so much better. Global, again, nothing in here. And then gamepad, I wouldn't use that either for now. That Eventide.INI included in the Petrrra pack should get you set up for your controller usage. Okay, so now that that's all set, let's see here. Where is minimap slash? Oh, maybe we just don't get the minimap in the Mog House. That actually makes perfect sense. My frame rate's going crazy right now, too. So if you're not using the optimization guide, which we'll go over later, but for now, just make sure you're on FPS 1 or 2 until we get the optimization pack going, and then you can set it to 0, but it requires setting some graphics card specific setting. Okay, so moving on to continuing setting up the UI. Your pet info, sadly, resets its location every time, but you don't have to do anything crazy. You can just click and drag it anywhere you like. I like mine down here, or sometimes over the chat window. Kind of depends. I move it around a fair amount. But for now, we're just going to stick it right here to get it out of the way. The minimap, if you want to move it around, you have to shift click it, and then you can shift click and drag it around. I like to bring mine down here, and then if you type /minimap, you can pop up the overall settings for it. It should automatically have the HD map pack. If it does not, just open this up and type remapster here, and it will grab the map files from our remapster file and load them into the minimap. Also, in general, you can adjust its size and scale. I like to set mine up just a little bit. I do 1.5 by 1.5. Careful when you're scaling it too, because it scooches around all weird when you do that. You can definitely lose it off the side of your screen. I like to set mine up kind of just like this so that it's just over the compass a little bit, so I can still see what time and square I'm in, but I don't really need the compass anymore. I've got this, right? And then ideally, your full party window, well, if you're in an alliance, you'll have to move it, I guess. I don't know, a couple different places for the map. I've also put it up here before. It closes during most menus, but it doesn't always close. So, yeah, you know, you can find a spot for that, or maybe bring these back out here and then put this guy tucked back in. But again, this is all personal preference stuff. You know, you'll find what you like. There we go. Okay, minimap placed. Deeps, I generally just drag off to this side somewhere. Treasure pool, same. Just kind of drag it off. I'll usually try and place it like right here-ish. Okay, next we're going to go over points. It comes preloaded with a lot of crap that you don't necessarily need, especially if you're using HXUI. You have some of this on there already. So what I like to do is pop up the /points. Now this one's a little weird. You got to do /points space config. And then my personal preference is the compact bar. But before I do that, I just want to show you guys how this works. You can come down to the default, and this is all of the tags that are inside of this. So if you don't want to see GIL, double click it, gone. You don't want that triple dot divider at the end, double click it, gone. Don't want accolades, gone. Divider, gone. Sparks, gone. Div, gone. CP chain, gone. JP hour, gone. JP, CP, div, gone. And honestly, the XP, I got it right here in this sweet bar, so we're going to get rid of that one too. Now what I do like is XP per hour, XP chain, and till next level. And then to make it look pretty, we can grab some dividers, and we can drop a divider in between each of those. And now we have our XP per hour, TNL, and current chain very nicely listed. And then personally, like I said, I like the compact bar. This drops it down into the corner, makes it ultra tiny. That way it's just not in your way, has the information you need on it, and nothing else. There's a lot of stuff you can put on here. Feel free to look around, play with it. Maybe you like the way this looks better than you like this yellow bar, you know, whatever. It does apparently change based on which, you know, game type you're in. So you can customize it for different modes as well. And then in the styles section, you can set the style options between full and compact modes, set your text size, color, all that. Personal preference on that. So now that points is set up, let's see here. What was the... Oh, right. Yeah. So the auto join, by default, it's auto join to auto decline everybody. So what you want to do is just type in /auto join mode 1, and it'll set the default mode to join mode. If you want to do a whitelist system, auto join. If you do auto join space H, you will get the list of commands, and you can use this to set up, you know, you could set it in decline mode or ignore mode, and then have a auto join list that is set up like a whitelist that will automatically join certain players' parties but auto decline others. Honestly, small server population, private server, I just leave mine on auto mode all the time. It's Final Fantasy XI. No one's ever sent me a random invite for trolling, you know. I'm sure they will now after the video, but, you know, whatever. Okay, so that's auto join. Let me check the list real quick and see if there's any other super important ones we should go over. Aspect, auto join, balloon. Oh yeah, let me just show off balloon. When you talk to an NPC, it just does the FF14 thing. And you get this awesome little chat window. Now by default, it still puts it in the chat log as well. So there are some settings you can do for that. It's /balloon to see the list of commands. And then, so for me personally, I like the show it in balloon but hide it in log. So /balloon1. And then I like the FF14 theme. He has some other themes built in where you can make them look like FF7 windows or whatever. And then I like to also do the cinematic mode, which I think is on by default, but let's find out. Balloon space cinematic. Make sure I spelled that right because I'm dumb. Yeah. No. There we go. Cinematic mode off. I like it on, so I'm going to do it again to make sure it's toggled on. What that does is it auto hides all of your Ashida UI when you're talking to an NPC or in a cutscene, but sadly it doesn't actually hide all of it. Your equipment mon, deeps, and treasure pool will always be up, sadly, and there is an add-on that does hide those during cutscenes, but that same add-on hides the balloon, so it's kind of I like the balloons better. I think it's worth having to deal with that. It's not a huge deal. Let's see here. Chains, of course, will go off on its own. When you do a weapon skill for the first time, you'll see it pop up on the screen somewhere and then just drag it where you like it. I like to put it about the same spot the casting bar is, kind of like right under my character, so I can see when skill chains are popping off immediately. Let's see here. Oh, Chatmon, right. So if you type /Chatmon, you get this bad boy, and then you can come in and be like, okay, do I really want it to do this annoying sound every time someone examines me? No. Do I want to see it every time someone chats? No. Oh, this is the talked about one, though. This one's kind of funny. When someone says your name in chat, it'll be like, you are being talked about. Which is kind of funny. You can also change these sound effects to be whatever you want. You just have to drop the sound file into the same folder that these are already in, and you can customize them. I've never done it. I leave the emote one off. The chat one I don't mind. The tell one I don't mind. The trade one I don't mind. Inventory full, awesome. Party invite, whatever. I mean, I've got auto join on now, right? So it's like, do I really need that? Probably not. Skill ups can be handy, especially if you're specifically skilling up, but like most of the time, pretty annoying. Turn that one off. Excuse me. Okay, and then let's see here. That one's garbage. Delete that one. Chatmon, checker, clean CS, yada, yada, yada. Draw distance is kind of automatic in the background once it's set up right. FPS we'll go over more in the optimization section. Oh, there's hide party. There's that one. I did want to check that one out later, though. Not right now. Instant chat. Item watch. Item watch is a fun one. /item watch. And then you can just pop up and be like, I need to know how many. Oops. Yeah, just a second, honey. So you can type anything you want in here, and it'll keep track of how many of them you have in your inventory. So, like, I could do Pebble. And I could add that in, and then I could go and do rabbit hide. And it starts filling this list out. And it'll keep track of how much is in your current inventory and in your Mog safe combined. So I use this when I'm chocobo digging. I have like my Gashel greens, and then depending on what zone I'm in, I have a list set up of all the like major money makers for that zone. And then once you have your list set up, you can come into the lists editor and you can save it as, Choco dig Altepa. Save to new list. And then if you want to edit your Altepa list, you can, say I want to add Rabbit Pi onto that list. I can then come in here, select it, save to existing file, and it'll update this. If you open up this list editor and your lists are empty and you don't panic, just click the refresh saves list and it'll pull it up. And then in the settings, you can either use top left, top right, whatever, or you can just set it to unlocked, save settings, and then you can drag it around. And then when you're all done using it, you just do item, watch, and remove all. And boom, clears it out. And then when you want to reload it, just go to your list, boom, easy mode. Okay, moving on. So your Lushita cast is, of course, an important one, but that's almost a whole tutorial of its own. Not getting into that right now. Macrofix is an important one if you are a keyboard and or a keyboard and mouse user. This simply removes the delay. See how I press the button and then a few seconds later it pops up. So I press the button, a few seconds later it pops up. The Macrofix removes that delay. Now, like I said, if you're going to use this keyboard hotbar add-on, you want the delay. That delay is actually important in this being able to capture your keystrokes. If you don't want to use this and you want to just use the default macros, you definitely want Macrofix on. That would be, and you would add this into your default.txt in the scripts folder, but the command would be /addon load Macrofix. Yeah, Macrofix. And now when you press Alt and Control, boom, instant. Super important for keyboard users. I am going to turn it off though, because I am not a keyboard user. And you can just do unload. Get rid of it. Minimap control. So minimap control happens in the background by itself. Anytime you enter a new zone, you will just set your minimap zoom to whatever you want, mouse over it, use your mouse wheel to zoom in and out, and whatever you set it to, that's what it'll be put to the next time you come to this zone. MobDB, let's get into the nitty gritty of this one. So MobDB is this at the top of my screen here. If you, I like to set mine right above my target bar. And then if you type /MobDB, you can pop this bad boy up. You can adjust the scale and everything. I don't mind the scale, but I actually drop my opacity to basically 0. And then I like to go into the edit tokens, and for the mobs, I leave it as is. But for everything else, I just remove the ID and position and index if it's there. Just like so. And now when I target players or NPCs, it doesn't pop up all this annoying trash that I don't need. And then when you target a monster, we'll go outside real quick. And just for fun, here's that cam 30 distance. You can see everything. And then cam 8, that's using F11 and F12 with the bindings that we set in our default.txt. So fun little bit with the camera there. Okay, so with MobDB, when you target a monster, it pops up and it will now show you their name, their level range, whether they are aggressive, and what type of aggro they have. So this is a non-aggressive creature with sound aggro. It gets 25% bonus damage from piercing, 25% bonus damage from light and wind, 12.5% bonus damage from ice and lightning, and negative 50% from dark. Now, say I want even more information. With this MobDB window up, using /MobDB, you can toggle enable on detailed view, and the detailed view window will pop up, and this can be set wherever you like. This gives you all of the info: index, ID, position, direction facing, speed, custom mob info, respawn timers, levels, all the different flags, and what item it drops. Fantastic. If you want to just leave it in detailed mode all the time, you can also use this little arrow to just make it small and big. So you could literally just hide this like right there, and then you could be like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, or put it wherever, just leave it hidden in the corner up here. I generally just leave mine on this mode though. Just gives me the battle info that I need. And then if I want to check a monster specifically, I'll just /MobDB, turn this on for a second, check the drop list, and then turn it off. And then so I can show you here too, like say I want this mini map zoomed out all the way. And then I go back inside, and it should be set exactly where I left it in town. Bam. And then when I walk back out, the map will be exactly where I left it for that zone. You do have to manually set it the first time in every zone since applying it. So, but once you have it set, that's it. It just remembers. It's great. Okay, no mount we already talked about. That's MobDB. No lock is already on. It's great. It'll keep you from getting locked down while initiating combat while being cast on. Pet info, we already talked about. It's that little one in the corner. Points, we went over. Renamer, don't really need to do anything with that. Target lines is also automatic. You'll see it when you go out and get into combat. It's super rad. A lot of these are just old. Right, T-timers. Oh, I can delete this one too. That's a no-no app. Okay. You do /TT, and this pulls up your configuration for T-timers. And this one's kind of dumb, but you got to do /TT rearrange? No, reposition. Okay, it's /TT reposition, and it will pop these guys up. Now, by default, they're just slammed over here. And also by default, you can grab these boxes. So if you click here, you'll grab the blue and the orange. But if you click the top, you can kind of separate them. So your buffs will always show the lowest timer will always be on the bottom. So you can quickly look at the bottom of the list and see, oh, I'm about to lose this buff. I like to keep my buffs over here. My recast timers are the same. The next ability available will always be on the bottom. So I drop that bad boy down there. Now the customs are a little unique. I like to just throw them over here somewhere. These are for setting your own timers. Say you're hunting an NM and you want a 15-minute timer. You can set up a custom 15-minute timer to pop up over there. And then the debuffs, I like putting the debuffs right underneath the target bar because this will show all debuffs currently on enemies and how long they last. Now, personally for me, these are way too tiny. So my buff bar, I like to come in and pop that up to about 115. Just a little bigger, a little easier to see, maybe even 1.2. Yeah, perfect. And then we'll go over to the debuff bar. Now the debuffs, I don't mind being a little smaller, but maybe let's do a 1.1, a little more readable. Pop it right there. Recast. We're going to give this one the 1.2 treatment again. stack it right on top of my pet bar. And then the customs, I just leave them tiny. Not too worried about the customs. I don't really use them that often, to be honest. If you want to change the way they work, like right now, the debuffs go from top to bottom, right? The ones on top are the ones leaving first. You could switch that around by doing count down instead of count up. You'll notice that the buffs have count down, but the debuffs are on countdown, but the recast is not on countdown. That's why it's the other way around, right? So personal choice, I like leaving them basically on default, just adjusting their size a little bit and then setting them up just like you see. Okay, so once you have those set up the way you want, you then type /tt lock and it'll lock those in. Now, that is all of the UI and add-ons that we've got set up and looking great. Next, I just want to talk a little bit about how to use the T crossbar and T hotbar. So if you are on your controller and you want to add a new bind to your controller bar, you're going to hold both triggers and both bumpers for 3 seconds. It's going to pop this little window up in the corner. And then what you're going to do is press the bind you want to set. So if I want to set right trigger A, Xbox controller, right? So I would press right trigger A, and it's going to pop up this T crossbar window. Now, global will apply no matter what class you have equipped. This is the bottom layer. Job is specific to the current main job you have equipped. Palette is a customizable setting that you can have multiple palettes per job. Personally, I like to use palettes for sub-job. That way I can put my sub-job specific abilities on the palette, and when I equip the job, I then only have to change my palette from thief sub-thief to sub-warrior palette, and it'll change all of my key bindings. And I'll give you some examples here. So we're going to go to the job section, then we're going to grab weapon skills, and we're going to put double thrust on target, bind it, easy mode, and then it adds double thrust right there to right trigger A. So now all I have to do is press right trigger A and it will fire off double thrust. Now I need to set up my Dragoon stuff as well. So on my double tap right, I like to set my Dragoon summoning stuff. So I'm going to double tap, press A. It's a job thing, right? Because it's something to do with my Wyvern. I'm going to set it to job, and then I'm going to set ability, call Wyvern, bind. Now on the double tap bar again, this time double tap B on the job layer, ability, dismiss, bind. And then I like to put my like 2-hour and special job abilities on my left to right sweep bar. So I'm going to press the left trigger, then the right trigger, then at A or X, whatever, controller style. And then it's a job setting, and I'm going to put my Spirit Surge on there. And then on left to right B, I'm going to put my Spirit Link. And then while you're doing this, you can also pull up your combat menu here and go to abilities, job abilities, move your map out of the way. And then you can use this just as a reference, right? So it's like, okay, I've already set Call Wyvern Oh, I need to set provoke. So I like provoke on my left trigger A. So I'm going to left trigger A. Now this I'm going to set on the palette layer because warrior is my sub job and provoke is a warrior ability. So I set it to palette. Ability provoke. Now I like my provoke to be on ST NPC so that I can select which enemy it goes off on. So I'm just going to change that, bind it. Jump, of course. I like my jump on my right trigger down. And that is a Dragoon ability, so it goes on the job layer. And for my jump macro, I like to do something a little different. I like to do slash target Bravo target B NPC and then do the jump on it. I also like to just do a regular jump emote for fun. Actually, I'm going to put that on the first line. It's kind of funny. It makes you jump and then leap off. It's like you're getting a little springboard jump. But what this is going to do is this line will target the closest enemy NPC to you and then immediately use jump on it. This allows you to use this in combat as normal, but then this also allows you to use this as a tag. So instead of having to target a monster at all, I can hold all four bumpers, or the bumpers and the triggers, to get out of binding mode. That's important. And now I can go up, and without targeting anything, I can just come up, fire off jump. Oh, I targeted that thing way over there. I guess it's got to be in front of you. But that way you can use it to tag monsters. You know, you don't have to have them targeted. You can just go up and hit the button. So these customizable windows, let me hold the bumpers and triggers, open this back up. These are just normal FF11 macros. If you don't even want to use the weapon skill types or any of these drop downs, if you wanted to make a totally custom one, let's say, like for instance, my targeting macros. So on my right to left sweep A, I'm going to set this to a global, and it won't matter what job I have selected. This will always be on the hotbar. So I set it to global, and then I just set it to command. And now it is just a macro. You can do whatever you want with it. Target. Let's do attack nearest. And then we'll do slash target Bravo NPC slash attack target. This will target the closest thing to me and immediately initiate attack on it. And then I like to have again, we're doing the right to left sweep B, global, command. This one is going to be slash target B NPC. I think that's it. Well, let me pull up my macros thing, actually. BT, that's what it was. Slash, or greater than, BT less than, whatever. This particular one will target the last mob pulled by the party. So when your puller's like, I got something, I'm bringing it in, this will just automatically target whatever that thing is. So I usually do target pull for the name of this one. So yeah, you can set up your targeting macros or any other kind of macro just with that. Actually, I'm going to move my target nearest one to up here. Global command slash target Bravo NPC slash attack target. Attack nearest. Okay, put that on triangle or Y, and then I'm a goober, and I like my sweep X to just have /jump macro. Especially as a controller user, because now I can run around and jump and pretend like Final Fantasy XI has an actual jump command in it, right? Can't jump up anything, but it's still fun. So that's using T crossbar. The palettes is the last thing I kind of want to go over here. So the palettes are a little more complicated than the rest. Sadly, there's no like UI for doing the palettes. So you have to use these commands. So let's see here. We'll rename a palette. Okay, so right now at this exact moment, if I just do a TC palette list, you can see I only have the one base palette, right? So I want to rename this palette. So we're going to use /TC palette rename. And if I remember correct, you type in the current name. Gotta have a space in there. And then what you want the new name to be. So I'm sub warrior right now. So I want to name the palette war. So now when I do /TC palette, too many L's, palette list, you can see I have war active. Now if I wanted to set one up for doing sub thief, I could do /TC palette add and then the name. So /TC palette add THF. Now when I do /TC palette list, you can see I now have a warrior and a thief palette. So when I was setting everything up, I'm currently on the thief palette. What was it? I can't remember what there's like a controller command you can put in to change the palette, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. But you could also just use TC palette next. There's a way to do it though. This would be right. Okay, so for next palette you do R2 then R1, and for last palette you do L2 then L1. So you hold the trigger and tap the bumper, and you can move back and forth between your palettes. So I can switch quickly between warrior and thief. So when I'm in warrior, you can see I've got provoke there. Now if I go switch classes, or switch subclasses, I should say, I could put a thief ability there in that same slot where provoke is, and as long as it's on the palette layer, it will switch around. So if you think about the layers, global is the bottom layer, job is the middle layer, and palette is the top layer. So you could have the same keybind, like, you know, left trigger A. You could have a global command, a job command, and a palette command on that one button, and it will prioritize the palette command because that's the top layer. And then if there is no palette command, it will look for a job command. And if there is no job command, it will look for a global command. So if I come to the Moogle, change jobs, support job, and we swap to thief. Now you notice that right there it says provoke unavailable. Well, let's switch to our thief, and then I can bind a palette level ability. Let's just put steel there for now. I can put steel there, and then I can unbind it, or come out of binding mode. And now if I switch to warrior mode, bam, provoke is still there, unusable. Switch to thief mode, there's the steel. So palettes are really handy for setting all that up, and starting early and using them now will make your life so much easier later on when you want to have a bunch of different sub jobs set up for your controller scheme or for your T-hotbar scheme. T-hotbar has all of the same features. You can do the same thing, and like on these layers, if you know, I can come in here and go to the macro layer, right, and say over that jump macro, I'm going to do X. Now I can place a palette specific command over that and say specifically when I'm on my thief subjob only. Now the palettes are also specific to the class, so this would specifically be Dragoon sub thief. I could have this also do a /party yo call 14 to be super annoying. Find. Now I'm in thief mode. I come over, jump does yo call 14 as well, but then if I switch over to my warrior bind, jump no longer does that, because it's set to, this jump command is set to the global layer, while this jump command is set to the palette layer. It's a little confusing at first, but trust me, setting it up right is important. Okay, so then I can also go to my thief layer. I can edit the jump. Now say you want to remove something from the layer, right? If I go into jump, make sure that I am on palette and set this to empty and bind, it will clear it. And now it's just showing the global jump again. You can see when I edit it, it's back on global. So it's a little funky. It'll take a little playing with, but once you kind of figure it out, it's really rad. I'm going to switch back to warrior, get out of binding mode, and switch back to sub warrior. So that handles getting your controller scheme all set up. Remember, you have left trigger, right trigger, left trigger, double left, double right, and right to left, and left to right. The left to rights, both triggers are being held down, but the order that you do it in is important. So I like to put on my right to left sweep, this is where I put all my globals and macros. On my left to right sweep, this is where I put all my special ability and big cooldowns. On my left bar is mostly weapon stuff. Right bar is usually abilities and spells. I'm sorry, left is usually ability and spells. Right is combat and weapon skills. And then double tap left, or double tap right is usually where I put combat abilities that I need more often, but not necessarily on the front bar. And then same with the double tap left. These are for spells and items and things that are used not as often. You can also, on that note, you can bind items directly to these. So say I wanted to put my XP ring in here. I can just go scope, global, action type, item, and then bam, Empress Band, me. Now my Empress Band is just hotkeyed. I can also set on the global layer, items, instant re-raise. And I can put my, I don't think I have one on me to bind it, but I could also put my instant warp on it. And then when you don't have the item, it'll just show a 0. So I can just quickly be like, oh, do I have my scrolls? Yep, got them. Cool. All right, so we'll turn these bindings off. Okay, that about covers it for add-ons. Next, we're going to go ahead and talk about optimization and getting the game to run as efficiently as possible. So we're going to start by shutting it down. Give it a little /exit here. Okay, so in the download pack, there were 2 files that got put into your bootloader. This is the XI loader that the game uses, and then these 2 DLLs and INIs are for specifically made by Atmos to up convert FF11 from DirectX 8 to DirectX 9, which helps it run a lot more efficiently and smoothly. In the INI, you just want to make sure that at the bottom, and these should be set already, but you want the fix Z shadow fighting enabled set to 1. Don't really mess with any of the other settings in here. Everything else should be good to go. And then what we're going to do is open up your NVIDIA Profile Manager or NVIDIA Control App. If you're AMD, you should be able to do the same thing. You'll just need to do it the AMD way. But in the settings, we're going to go to Program Specific Settings. And then right now I have it set up for my X drive folder, but we're going to pretend like we're doing this brand new on a C drive install. I'm going to go to Add, and then Browse, and then you're going to go to C, or wherever you installed it, Eventide, bootloader, and you're going to select the xiloader.exe. Okay, and then the settings that you want to make sure you have active. I'm going to copy this one because I've already got it set up, but you want to make sure that you have anisotropic filtering to application controlled, FFXI off, gamma correction off, anti-aliasing mode off. The background application max frame rate 60 FPS, and foreground max frame rate 60 FPS. Make sure that your OpenGL rendering GPU is set to your strongest GPU if you're a laptop user. Prefer maximum performance. Anisotropic sample options off, negative load bias, allow, quality, high quality, trilinear off, triple buffering. Doesn't matter. Game doesn't use OpenGL, but off. And then I use, personally, I have G-Sync set up, and I leave vertical sync on. And then once you have those settings, really the important ones are just making sure that the right GPU is selected. Again, that's for OpenGL. It's not really going to change anything. But this wrapper should also help if you are on a laptop. It should help you force the computer to use your actual graphics card instead of the internal. So once you have that set up, then you click Apply. It'll take a second, and then let me set it up on the new one too. So we had anisotropic filtering, application controlled FFXI off, gamma off, anti-aliasing off. Max frame rate on at 60. Background max frame rate. You can also use these settings to lock it at 30 if you just can't get the full 60, even with the wrapper and all that. Okay. Okay, I think the rest of that was pretty good. Prefer maximum performance. Oh, here we go. This one, the CUDA GPUs, you want to make sure that your like strongest one is selected. I only have the one. I'm not on a laptop, but I think right there is where you could use the laptop settings. Anyway, once that's applied, you should be good to go. You can launch in, and it should default to FPS 0 with our settings INI, and then your graphics card profiler will lock it at 60. And then once you have it running and you're getting the full 60 FPS and you're liking the way it's running, if you want to take it even further and be able to boost up to 120 or 165 FPS without ruining the frame rate of the animations, or the animation time, I should say, we use a third-party program called Lossless Scaling to do that. I think it's about $7 right now on Steam. But it's pretty amazing. So right now it's running well. We're at getting the 60 frames per second. If this is great for you and you just want to leave it at that, awesome. If it's still not running well for you, and you need to just tone it down a little bit, in the pivot settings, you can choose the lower resolution texture pack. So if you do /pivot, you could remove Ashenbubs Prime and add in Ashenbubs Basic. And then you just need to do a zone change for that to apply. And you can do this in-game anytime you want. So if you're playing on the Prime pack and you're about to go do Dynamis and you want to drop it down, just before you go in, swap those pivots, and when you load into Dynamis, you'll have the lower resolution textures, which will run a lot smoother. So, and really, I mean, there's not a huge difference, especially over a YouTube video at 60 FPS. You really won't be able to see the difference, but that would help you if you were having frame rate issues because you were running too high of a texture resolution pack. But once you get it set up the way you want, once you have the Ashenbubs you want, if you want to have it default to the lower resolution one, you will just go to your Eventide config pivot, right click this, go to properties, make sure it'll redo this every time. So every time you edit your pivot INI, you have to unread only it, open it up, change from basic to prime or from prime to basic, you know, whatever way you want to do it. Okay. So that would set you up for that. And if that's as far as you want to take the optimization, that's great. It should run a lot better with those DLLs that are just in there automatically. But if you really want it to run as smooth and awesome as possible, you can get this third-party program we've been talking about called Lossless Scaling. So what you'll do is you'll open up Lossless Scaling. You will add a new profile titled FFXI, and you will set it to the proper bootloader, which would be wherever you installed bootloader xiloader.exe. Once you have that set, you activate auto scaling on that app and then click add. And then for the settings, the way I set mine up is I leave the scaling mode to auto and full screen. I turn the scaling itself off. Make sure you're on FrameGen 2.3 mode 3x, this is going to triple my frame rate. So it's going to take that 60 FPS and turn it into 180. Or if you're locked at 3, or if you're locked at 30 FPS, you can boost up to 90 with this. So whichever mode runs best for you in FF11 by default, whether that's 30 FPS or 60 FPS, no problem. You can use this app to boost up way over that. I've used it at a 30 frame lock in FF11 and done the 2x, 3x, and 4x options. And the more multiplier you go, the smoother it'll get. But if you only get 30 FPS by default, it will be a little more blurry the higher you go on this. It just doesn't have enough information to properly generate the frames. But even at the 30 frame lock, 2x or 3x should look fine. I use 3x though, like I said, because my monitor has 165 hertz refresh. So I am boosting the 60 FPS up to 180, and then it is G-syncing to the 165. So once you get your mode set, you can change this, try different things, see which one you like. This is the option you will want to change to adjust blurriness, right? The lower the number, the less blurry. The higher the number, the more blurry, but also the more smooth. If you are using multiple windows, there are some options you can set for that where you can have the cursor lock or clip. I like to set it to scale just because it gets a little thin. And then you want to, if you have an HDR monitor, you want to make sure you have HDR support on. If you have G-Sync support turned on, make sure you have G-Sync support. The draw FPS will show you in the corner what your current FPS is. And then this is the really important part. The capture type has to be DXGI for Final Fantasy XI. And then you can, if you have multiple monitors, you can turn multiple display mode on. I don't, so I'm going to just leave that off. And then once you have these settings, you are good to go. You can minimize lossless scaling. It'll minimize down to your apps. And then when you launch Eventide, now in the corner, upper left, you will see a white number as well as the /FPS number, right? So get all the way logged in. Okay, so you can now see up in the corner that the game itself is getting 60 FPS, and that's what this first white number is. And then this is the frame rate with the generated frames. So I'm now getting 158 FPS. And again, in a 60 FPS video over YouTube, you will not be able to see the difference, but it is significantly smoother with the frame generation being added in there. You do get a little bit of artifacting around some of your UI and sometimes around your character. Like I said, if it's too much, you just turn that multiplier down. Go from x3 to x2, and you'll get less artifacting. But it really does make the game run super smooth. I mean, seeing FF11 in full HD at 160 FPS is pretty rad. So that is everything for the optimization, and that covers install, setting up add-ons, getting the nitty-gritty of your add-on set up, and if you really want to take it to the extra level, getting lossless scaling set up and going so that you can get the highest quality Final Fantasy XI you can. Pumping all sorts of modern tech into this bitch. All right, guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. Sorry that took so long. I hope this helps a lot of FF11 and Eventide players get going. Y'all are awesome. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.